gratitude, everyone. It is Alana from Sabali Pure, and it is October. Can you believe where has the year of 2024 gone? It's insane. But October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so, in acknowledgement of this month, in acknowledgement of breast cancer, which at this point in time, sadly, I don't think that there's anyone in our country and maybe even globally that hasn't been touched in some way or another by breast cancer. And so, in acknowledgement of this month, I wanted to talk to you about our Earth Trace Mineral Deodorant. And more specifically, what I wanted to talk to you about is one of the big inspirations for this product. Her name is Sherryl Taylor. Sherryl Taylor was my mother-in-law, and she was a remarkable woman. She was born in 1941. She grew up in Harlem, New York. Over the course of her youth, she would lose her mother at 13. Her father, by that point in time, was completely blind from an eye disease. And so she really took on the role of kind of housemaker. And her father was very strict. She was a straight A student. Sherryl would go on to go to college. She would ultimately get married. She would marry a high-profile Harlem businessman, and she would rub noses or shoulders. She would rub shoulders. She would rub shoulders with some of the most influential people that we now read about in our books. You name it. Because of her husband's connections and because of just the way that Harlem was at that time, she knew a lot of people that we are very familiar with. Sherryl would go on to have 2 children. She traveled the world. She did some amazing things. As a 5th grade teacher, she taught for 37 years in Harlem. In 1996, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went through the treatments. 7 years later, a tumor would be found in her brain. The breast cancer had returned and had metastasized and traveled upward. This is not an uncommon thing. 20 to 50% of women who experience breast cancer will experience the breast to brain cancer connection. 2008, I was blessed to marry the love of my life. Not long after Eric and I were married, we found out that I was expecting our first son. So it just made sense for me to stay home, get prepared, and I began taking care of Sherryl. That began what would become the next 13 years of my life. As a family, we made the decision to take on the 24-hour-a-day care of Sherryl. And when you live in that sort of existence, health becomes very top of mind, not just for the person that you're caring for, who you are trying to help live the highest quality of life, but also for yourself and, in our case, for our children. And as we were researching and learning all these different techniques, one of the repeating themes was environment. Environmental factors play a huge role in everyone's health. And while I don't always agree with everything that the World Health Organization says, they claim that environmental factors are responsible for 1 in 4 diseases that people experience. So 1/4 of all illnesses that everyone experiences, the World Health Organization says, can be directly contributed to the environmental toxins that they are living with. I personally think that environmental toxins are responsible for a lot more than 1/4. Environmental factors include the air that you breathe, the food that you eat, and yes, the things that you put onto your skin. One of the things that I learned that was really shocking to me at first was that anything that you put onto your body will enter into your bloodstream within 26 seconds. And once it is in your bloodstream, it doesn't take very long for that substance to travel through your entire body. My research and life experience led me to create body care products. I became more and more focused on how I could help my family live a healthier life. And obviously, that included Sherryl. Now, I do need to back up just a little bit to give some context to my knowledge and my thought processes. I grew up in a very healthy home. My mother was a nurse, but she chose to look at alternative ways of medicine. And it was actually directly related to her experience of working in mainstream hospitals that made her seek out different forms of health care. So by the time I was caring for Sherryl and at a place where I was even thinking about making body care products, I was very familiar with homeopathic. My mother had been a sales rep for doTERRA for quite a few years. So these concepts were not completely foreign to me. But what I will say is when I really had that knowledge of understanding how things enter our body through our skin, it was like something clicked. And so creating healthy body care products became very important to me because not just for myself, but I think even more so for my children who were developing. And in caring for Sherryl at that time, we were starting to hear a lot about how aluminum based deodorants were causing breast cancer. And obviously, I knew that Cheryl's health issues really began with her breast cancer diagnosis many years before. It was truly a perfect storm. I had knowledge of alternate or more holistic health care. I was caring for somebody who had had breast cancer. I had young children in my home. So now, as a mother, I was not only thinking about myself, but I was thinking about the health of my children. I was at a time where I just learned about the importance of what you put on your skin and how those things get absorbed into our entire body. And finally, I was learning about the aluminum in the deodorants that we were using, and it was becoming more and more apparent to me that we needed to make a change. The evolution of the formula that would go on to become our Earth Trace Mineral Deodorant happened over nearly 7 years. And throughout that time, caring for Sherryl, I was thinking about what are the things that a woman like Sherryl would have wanted in her deodorant. Obviously, odor control was huge. She would not have worn something that would have broken out her body. She would have wanted something that had a certain level of moisture control. You know, that was the thing that got us for so many years, moisture. As a woman growing up here in the United States, I honestly can tell you, I did not know what moisture under my arms felt like until I made the transition from the aluminum based deodorants to the products that I was actually making. And it's funny because when I started making deodorants, I actually was selling them before I had even transitioned. I understood the health implications of them. I understood why these were so incredibly important, but I was so ingrained in what our society taught us about women, about sweating, about the feeling of sweat under our arms, all of it, that I didn't even use my own product when I first started making this deodorant. That's a big deal. And so the first thing I did was make that transition in the summer of 2017. And in making that transition, it started me in updating and changing the formula quite a bit. So when we think about our body care products and the chemicals and toxins, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about endocrine disruptors. So what is an endocrine disruptor? An endocrine disruptor is anything that disrupts the natural flow of our body. Endocrine works with our hormonal system and our overall function, right? So, endocrine disruptors deal with our sleep patterns, our emotions, our digestion, the way that our body regulates its temperature. Everything, almost everything that our body does is connected to the endocrine system. And when we talk about these toxins that are in the cosmetics, the body care, the different things that we put on our skin, we are really talking about the endocrine disruptors. So let's look specifically at what many of them are. Okay, so if we're talking about toxins in commercial deodorants, we cannot get away from the elephant in the room. Yep, you guessed it, aluminum. But the thing about aluminum, it is far from the only toxin. It is just the most widely publicized. It is a way for us to focus solely on one thing and think, if I can only get my hands on a deodorant that doesn't have aluminum in it, I will be safe. Unfortunately, that is not the case. But very quickly, let me just tell you, why did we put aluminum in deodorant in the first place? What aluminum does is it restricts our pores. Restricted pores don't sweat. They don't sweat, therefore it is easier to stop odor. But here's the other thing that restricted pores don't do. They do not pass the toxins out of our body the way that they are supposed to. Instead, those toxins stay within our body. Now our body must find an alternate path. What oftentimes happens is that our body never fully gets those toxins out, and therefore we are now exposing our cells to toxins that it's not supposed to see or be with. Those cells can end up mutating. Those mutations can lead to replication. That fast replication of mutated cells oftentimes becomes cancerous, and that's the link right there. Now, as I mentioned, aluminum is just one of the ingredients that our body is unable to process. Let's talk about some of the other ones. Parabens. You've probably heard of parabens. What is a paraben? A paraben is a preservative. But it's just one type of preservative. There are many, many, many different types of preservatives. Now, there are natural-based preservatives and there are synthetic-based preservatives. Parabens are a synthetic, and there are many different types of synthetic preservatives. There are also natural preservatives. Oftentimes, they are not going to be as effective as the synthetic preservatives. Now, what does that mean when we say that a natural preservative is not as effective? What it means is that it will not hold up year over year over year. It will not hold up in the heat and cold fluctuations. It may not be able to effectively keep natural ingredients from growing bacteria, which is mold. There are different ways that people like me are going to formulate in order to make our products less attractive to bacteria. And it's a very easy thing to do, but here's the catch. Formulating the way that I do costs a lot of money. It's just more expensive because I'm using less fillers, I'm using pure ingredients, etc., etc., and those are more expensive, and they also do not have the extended shelf life of 3, 5, 6, 7, sometimes even longer shelf lives than that. Believe it or not, I found a MAC lipstick that I used to wear back in the 90s. I found it in this jacket. It's really crazy how you could have something that long. And just for fun, I put the lipstick on, and guess what? It still was good. Now, I'm not wearing my MAC Diva lipstick anymore, but it was a bit fun to put it on and see. But what's really scary is that those preservatives had kept that lipstick fresh for, oh my gosh, over 20 years. That's really crazy, right? That's what these synthetic preservatives do. And that's why manufacturers really love them. Because if you can have a product that you make today and you know that 7, 8 years from now, it can still be used, that makes it attractive for the manufacturer and makes it attractive for the store that's carrying it, because they know, even if I don't sell it now, at some point I'm going to sell this and I'm going to make back my money. So that's why manufacturers love synthetic preservatives. And I have to admit, there are some good things that come from synthetic preservatives, but you have to be very mindful in the choice of what types of synthetic preservatives to use. It's a really big deal, and it's a very delicate decision. And so you have to really weigh it out, and you can't just throw, let's put it this way. Some preservatives are like going into a kid's squirt gun fight, the little squirt guns, with an Uzi, okay? That's what a lot of manufacturers do, because it's going to ensure that something stays good forever, but it's not really necessary. So parabens are another big thing. But let's be real. Synthetic preservatives in general tend to be things that our bodies don't know what they are. And when our body encounters anything that it doesn't know what it is, it's going to treat it as a foreign substance that it wants to pass out. The next big thing that we need to be aware of are fragrance oils. We are a country obsessed with smelling good, whether it be our bodies, our clothes, our houses. We have scents for everything. The problem with these scents is that they're not natural. They're made of synthetics once again. And so once again, our bodies don't know what to do with them. When we're looking at scents, we have to look at what makes the scent. Again, synthetics are going to last a very long time. It's much easier to produce a synthetic. The fragrances last longer, you need less of it, and they can be easily replicated. So that's how, for example, a particular perfume that you're going to buy is going to smell exactly the same every single time. Whereas in contrast, the rose oil that I use in my sandalwood deodorants, the rose oil is going to smell slightly different every single time. Why? Because the flowers grow slightly different. Why is this? It could be the amount of water, it could be the amount of sun, it could be the amount of potassium in the soil. There's so many things that are going to impact the way that an essential oil is going to smell. Fragrance oils are the same every single time, and they last a really long time. Now, let me let you in on a little secret. There are two different types of fragrance oils. We have artificial fragrance oils and we have natural fragrance oils. So when you hear that, which one do you think is better? Have you guessed? Well, everybody's going to say natural. I want a natural fragrance oil, and many of our products actually tout that they feature natural fragrance oils. Here's the problem, guys, and this is where the secret comes in. All that natural really means when you're dealing with a fragrance oil is that the littlest thing that the original scent is made from is natural. But what it doesn't tell you is what was done to that natural item in the laboratory. It doesn't tell you all of the processes. It doesn't tell you all the other ingredients that were mixed in. It doesn't tell you any of that stuff. It just tells you that the very, very core of it was natural at one time. And funny thing is that you can oftentimes have a natural fragrance and an artificial fragrance, and the same goes for flavors. So we have them both in food too. You can have the natural version and you can have the artificial version, but by the time the laboratory finishes doing and working all their little magic, the natural one is actually more toxic for you than the artificial one. Isn't that something? Look at the way they trick us. Well, here's what I do. I just don't deal with fragrance oils. You don't want to deal with them at all, but they are definitely endocrine disruptors. So that's another thing that you want to be very much aware of when you're dealing with your products. So I just finished telling you about many of the endocrine disruptors that are inside the products that we use. But what about what is in the containers that the products we use are housed in? Oh my gosh, yes. They also have endocrine disrupting chemicals in them that are making us sick. What? Are you kidding me? Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. It's real. There are toxins everywhere, and they're in the containers that house our deodorants, as well as our shampoos, as well as our eyeshadows, as well as all the other things that we see when we walk down the aisles of Target, Walmart, Sephora, wherever it is. These plastic containers are full of chemicals. The two biggies are phthalates and bisphenol. I have to read them because they're a little hard for me to say. Bisphenol is also known as BPA. They talk about removing it from the plastics, but let me explain. That is typically going to be in your higher end water bottles, and they're usually in the water bottles that are designed to be reused multiple times. So for example, I heard about them a lot when I was a nursing mom and when my kids were using bottles. Why? Because we were using the bottles over and over again, and they were trying to sell us on keeping our children healthy. These are two toxins or chemicals that are used to harden. In one case, I believe that the bisphenol, I believe the bisphenol is used to harden the plastic, and the phthalate is used to make the plastic pliable. Now, I might be wrong on that, but these chemicals are in the plastic, and that's a big problem. Now, we won't even get into all the problems of plastic these days. Yes, guys, we are actually breathing plastic. I am probably breathing plastic right now, as are you. It is in the air. They say that the typical American is consuming about a credit card size of plastics every single year, just in the air that we breathe and the water that we drink. So yeah, it's a big deal, guys. And these plastics have chemicals in them, and they are bad for us. So yeah, we can't get away from it. It's crazy, right? So now that I've talked to you about all of the ingredients that I do not use because of them being endocrine disruptors and being linked to cancer, let me talk to you about what we do. Okay, so the first thing we don't use is aluminum. Instead, what we do is we use a natural process to draw out the toxins from your body. Ultimately, it is not your sweat or you that smell. It is the toxins and the bacteria. So by using natural plant-based and herbal-based ingredients, we are able to draw out those toxins. Once they are out of your system, we are able to target them and neutralize them. One of the ingredients that we use is diatomaceous earth, a trace mineral. You'll note that we call our deodorant trace mineral deodorant. Diatomaceous is a toxin puller, and it pulls heavy metals in addition to other toxins from your body. Now we've pulled the toxins out. The next thing that we do is we pair that what has been pulled out with an essential oil blend. Essential oil blends give our products their fragrance, right? We don't use fragrance oils, we use essential oils. These essential oils have the fragrance capacity, but even more powerful, they have healing capacity. So, essential oils have the ability to neutralize bacteria, and they also have the ability to balance your hormonal system over time. Because, again, remember, anything you put on your skin is absorbed into your body within 26 seconds. So these essential oils, which are providing the fragrance, are also being absorbed up into your skin, and the healing properties of the plants that make up the essential oil blends we use are now being absorbed into your body and helping to heal. Once we've drawn out the toxins, neutralized them with the essential oils, there may still be some bacteria or toxins that are still there. This is where the second trace mineral that we use, zinc, comes in. We use a zinc that is encapsulated in castor oil. That zinc actually helps to pull the odor, encapsulate it with that castor oil that I mentioned, and pull it away and hold it. This helps to keep the odor under control. Now, to top it all off, we finish with a natural vitamin E. What do I mean by that? We use a high-grade natural vitamin E that is not synthetic. Yes, you heard me right. Vitamin E is oftentimes synthetic. So, vitamin E is first always housed in some sort of carrier liquid or oil. Many vitamin E's are synthetic. Oftentimes what they are carried in is synthetic. It is not unusual for them to be carried in a petroleum-based acetate. Some are carried in the palm oil that I mentioned earlier. Many of the vitamin E's are synthetic. In our case, we choose to use a real, pure vitamin E that is housed in a non-GMO soy oil. In addition, the vitamin E that we use is 78 to 82% pure. Most of the vitamin E's that you're going to see in the drugstore range between 28 and 32% pure. So we've got 28 to 32% pure, we've got 78 to 82% pure. Which one do you think is going to have better healing properties for your body? Is it going to be the synthetic vitamin E? Is it going to be the vitamin E that is non-synthetic and with a higher amount of actual vitamin E? You got it. Option 2, what we use. And why do we use vitamin E? What does that have to do with anything? Well, vitamin E is used because it encourages cell turnover. And when we're sloughing cells off from under our arm area or any other place that you choose to use our deodorant, which is safe for you to use all over your body, that cell turnover helps to slough away and open your skin up to absorb the essential oils. This means that our deodorant is going to be more effective and your odor is going to be kept at bay longer. You see, every ingredient that we use in Earth Trace Mineral Deodorant has a purpose, And you need to make sure that when you're looking at ingredients in other products, what is the need and purpose for the ingredient? Why are they there? Oftentimes, they're just there to be fillers. They're fillers around all the chemicals that are just there doing something superficially to your body, which actually isn't really superficial because it's getting absorbed up into your body and it can be wreaking havoc. So make sure you read your labels and pay attention very closely to what you're putting on your body because there are repercussions. Even if you don't feel it today, tomorrow, or next year, those repercussions come. So now that you've learned just about everything you ever wanted to know about organic formulation as it relates to natural deodorant, I want to bring the focus back to Sherryl. Why? Because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Sherryl is just one of millions of women who have had their lives touched by breast cancer. And it's important for us to focus on these women because women are the portals that bring life into this world. Every single one of us has a mother, and so in some way or another, we have been touched by breast cancer or we know somebody, and it's important to remember the humanity of these women who many sadly did not make it through their breast cancer experience. Over the years that I took care of Sherryl Taylor and her dementia continued to progress, Sherryl became more and more like my child. She actually called me mommy, and I definitely took on a very maternal feeling toward her. And the same way that when you have little children and you're doing something in the house, you'll find ways to engage with them. I did that with Sherryl. So I started making these deodorants as mentioned over 7 years ago. And when I first started making them, I would put them in plastic containers. Yes, I know. I just finished telling you how bad plastic was. But in my defense, I didn't know. And so, like so many other things, when we know better, we do better. But just really quickly, the reason why I put them in plastic containers is because putting them in a container like this is far more expensive. When I say that it quadruples, if not 5 times my cost, it really does. And so, as a small business, it's not always feasible to do the things that we want. We have these visions further out in the future when our business grows. I did obviously get to that place where I was starting a brand new line, and I just decided to go for it, to take on that expense because I knew it was what I wanted. But when I was using plastic, Sherryl was there right alongside with me, helping me label the packages. So I would set the scene, I would get the labels, I would get the containers, I would prep them up, and I would have her help me. And the first thing I would do would be to demonstrate how to label. The next thing that I would do was work hand to hand with her, showing her exactly what she needed to do in order to label. And then finally, she would start to label on her own. And I'll tell you, the amount of pride that she got in doing this, it excited her, but it warmed my heart because it really allowed me to involve her and it made her smile. And to be honest with you, as a caregiver, so often, if all you can do is get a smile out of the person that you're caring for, your day is just made. And so Sherryl definitely made my day. These tubes, just so you know, they are FSC certified. FSC is the Forest Stewardship Council, and actually they are post-consumer. They're made from post-consumer materials, meaning that at one point this was newspaper or cardboard or whatever it happened to be before it was remade into these tubes. And I'm super proud of that. These are compostable. So if you open them up and peel the colored part away, which is recyclable, you can put the other portion of it into your compost pile. And I have done this in my garden and they have completely broken down. So Sherryl used to help me label it. The next thing, and the more fun way that I was able to involve Sherryl in the creation of this line specifically, was in the scent creation. Like when you're working with fragrance oils just strictly for the scent that they create, I love working with essential oils because you are actually creating a blend that has healing capacity. So, for example, the types of blends that I'm going to create for a deodorant are going to be a bit different than the scents that I would create for a tooth powder, so that it has the oral care properties, versus the flavors that I'm going to use those essential oils for flavor boosting. That's completely different. And one of the main things I looked for in creating the scents for these is that I knew that the oils I use had to have a level of detox and a level of antibacterial properties, because my whole system with the formula of these deodorants was to pull the toxins out, to neutralize that bacteria, which would then control the odor. All right. So, for example, in the sandalwood rose, we have the sandalwood, which is antibacterial, and we also have orange, which is a citrus. Citruses are really great for antibacterial. There's different levels within those citruses, lemon being stronger than orange, but they are both very good at being antibacterial. This helps with a deodorant blend. For the lavender lemongrass, the lemongrass has a lot of antibacterial properties, as does the lavender. Both of them are actually highly antibacterial. And when it came time for me to create a blend for our men's blend, I decided to stay away from lavender. Why? Because it's shown that if men have too much lavender, it can actually throw off their male hormones. Now, I do need to say a disclaimer. If you were to have your hormones thrown off by lavender as a male, you would have to be using quite a bit of lavender. You would have to be putting this deodorant on all over their body, which you can. This deodorant is safe to use all over your body. One of my favorite places to apply deodorant to apply these deodorants is your feet. Why? Because our feet are very absorbent and it connects to all of our organs. So when you apply essential oil based products onto your feet, you are one, sending that essential oil through your entire body very quickly, but also you're having access to pressure points that can impact organs throughout your entire body. So through applying the oils, or in this case the deodorant, and then rubbing your feet in the right ways, you could use the essential oils in here to actually stimulate other benefits throughout your body. So just something that's very interesting when you're working with natural ingredients. And that's why I call these holistic deodorants, because they are not just simply for covering funk and that's it. There's a rhyme and a reason for every single thing. And speaking of rhyme and reason, I want to also talk to you about the blood-brain barrier. And they have proven that aromatherapy, which is a big part of essential oils, aromatherapy is one of the fastest ways to break through that blood-brain barrier. And so when you're working with essential oils, you can also keep that in mind. And that's exactly what I did. Now, when I was creating the blends for these two deodorants, these were my first two. I didn't come out with the men's until a bit later. I decided early on that I was going to have an oil that could be used on the hair, face, and the body. So this oil, even though it didn't come until about a year or so after the deodorants, I knew that this was going to be coming into existence, and I wanted to create a process that I knew of, an Ayurvedic process known as Abhyanga. An Abhyanga facial involves warm oil being poured over the forehead and then massaged into the scalp. And because of the healing properties of the essential oils, this process not only feels amazing, but the healing properties of the essential oils are in there. So, if you were to look at my deodorant, you would see that on the lavender lemongrass, you see elevating. Why do I have elevating? Because lemongrass has been directly linked to being it can be used as an antidepressant, as an upliftment, as a mood elevator. It is evened out by the lavender, which just gives it that calm, even flow, right? So, what I thought is that if you had the oil, you could take some of that oil in the morning and just take a few moments to do a little bit of self care. Put some of that oil in your hand, massage it into your forehead, massage it into your hair. Take the time to breathe in and absorb those healing properties into your brain and into your mood. On the opposite side of that upliftment is the grounding aspects. Sandalwood is very grounding. Think about a tree, that grounding feeling. Rose is a very calm and angelic scent, and it is very calming, and it kind of gives you that really sense of peace. That's the same thing that I created these for. So that's one of the things that I love about working with essential oils, is because I can move beyond simply what my nose experiences and think about what my entire body is going to experience. And that is exactly what I did when I was creating the scent palettes for our deodorants. Now, how did I involve Sherryl in this? I did come up with the actual oils. So by the time I involved Sherryl in this, I knew that I was going to be using sandalwood, rose, orange, geranium. Originally, I had wanted to do Palo Santo. That was my ultimate goal. And I still think I might do a blend with Palo Santo later. But I found that I couldn't play with the scent as much as I wanted to. Palo Santo is a fabulous wood, has an amazing scent. But I knew what I was going to do. And when I came to Sherryl, I would let her smell the different blends that I had made, different percentages of different oils, and what by that point in time, her dementia was fairly pronounced. And I knew that a scent was good when I brought it to her and she wanted to eat it. And so I did that across the board. And Sherryl did have her favorites. And I will tell you, she absolutely loves florals. And so this, I think, was her favorite, although she was a big fan of lavender as well. So I involved her every step of the way, and it just brought me so much satisfaction to be able to work with her and bring her, because she was part of the early influence of this product to begin with, to bring her through this process with me and keep her involved for as long as I could. I filed the business licenses for Sabali Pure in May of 2021. And I got into creating the scents, the formulas, and all of those things. And Sherryl was with us. We did get sick. We did get COVID. And Sherryl did pass away September of 2021 after these formulas were created and after all that I told you was done. She did not pass away from COVID. She did pass away from untreated pneumonia. It's a very long story. Her son was actually in a coma when she passed away, and I legally was not allowed to make decisions for her because I was the daughter-in-law and not the daughter. And regardless of her leaving this realm, her impact is felt still to this day. Her impact on this line is very real. Her impact on my life is near and dear. You know, when you become a caregiver, you think you are becoming a caregiver to help that other person, and you do. But if you're open, you learn so much from the experience. My time caring for Sherryl taught me compassion. It taught me kindness. It taught me love. It taught me patience. All of these things in my life were elevated because of my time caring for Sherryl. And I just feel honored. She changed my life. Again, I would have never had this line had I not stayed home to care for Sherryl. And Sherryl Taylor, I know that you are here. I feel you on a regular basis, and I thank you for the lessons that you taught me. And I want to thank you. And I just want to say to every woman, every family, every man, because men get breast cancer as well, that have been impacted by cancer, my heartfelt prayers and just blessings to each and every one of you. And I just thank you for watching this entire video. And please hug your loved ones. Let them know that you love them, that you are there, and that they are valued, because there could become a day, or there will come a day when they're no longer there. And there are certain things that I maybe look back on and would have done a little bit different with Sherryl, but I learned so much. And so I just thank her for her time in my life and for her allowing me to give of myself in the way that I did and to be a caregiver. Thank you, everyone. Please, if you like what you saw, please follow and subscribe. If you have any questions, please reach out. Comment below, reach out through Instagram, reach out through the website, which is www.sabalepure.com. And good night. I love you, and peace, love, and light. Bye.